You can go to Israel today and walk in the very place that Abraham walked. And here to discuss this wonderful subject is our good friend Avi Lipkin. Walking in the place where Abraham walked. On our trip to Israel last year, we accompanied your son, Aaron Lipkin, and he guided us into the footsteps, if you will, of Abraham. Very inspiring presentation. And he's put that on a DVD. Isn't that a phenomenal thing, Avi?
I think it's remarkable. We're living in a very special time in which science and archaeology and common sense are all coming together. And Aaron, my son Aaron, is employing all of these elements in the DVDs that he has produced. And he's soon going to produce some more DVDs too. I actually said to Aaron he has to do a library because there's so many different archaeological places in Israel, archaeological discoveries, that all prove the veracity of the Bible. And this is extremely important because we Jews and Christians face two enemies, Islam and what I call the religion of the one world government whose God is mammon or money. And the way to do it is to prove the veracity of the Bible using science and archaeology. And that's what my son has been doing. My son, CEO of Lipkin Tours, which has brought you and Bob Ulrich and Tyler and a few other people, good people, Daniel Wright. We had a fabulous time, but it's a revolutionary tour because it's cutting-edge technology, literally cutting-edge science and archaeology, proving the veracity of the Bible. And yes, this tour to Bethel is being proven every day. There are new archaeological artifacts being dug up there, proving that something happened there, something very special.
I want to stop for a moment here and read one of my favorite passages in Genesis. Genesis 13:14. And the Lord said unto Abram, after Lot was separated from him, lift up your eyes, look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, westward, for all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. Now, you talk about a definitive statement, the words of God. The question is, what if that didn't really happen? What if it's just a fiction? And, you know, there are a lot of agnostics out there today. There are a lot of modernists who say, oh, the words of the Bible are nice and sweet, and they're wonderful old stories, but we don't think they really happened. Well, we went to Israel with Aaron, and we stood at a place in Bethel where Abraham must surely have walked and looked to the north, south, east, and west. And you can relive that in your mind, and it leaps into reality. This is amazing, and Aaron is so gifted at making that presentation.
And indeed, I have to talk as a person who served in the Israeli army, and actually I was stationed on that intelligence mountain there of Baal Hatzor, which is the highest mountain in Samaria.
Just north of Bethel.
Just north of Bethel. And that's where Abraham stood also. And when you go up that mountain, I was up on that mountain, you see everything from Mount Hermon all the way down to the Dead Sea and into Jordan, all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. So when you say north, south, east, west, that's the place where you'd have to go. So he was there. And also there is a teaching from Breshit Rabbah, Genesis Rabbah, which talks about Abraham's personal diary and things that are not in the Bible per se, but they prove indeed that Abraham was there, that actually he could look down to Sodom and Gomorrah from that mountain. He could look down into the Jordan River Valley. So that was also very important. An interesting point, which is glossed over by Christians, and of course Jews who don't read the New Testament, but it says in the New Testament that when Jesus flees Satan and the temptation, he climbs up to the mountains of Ephraim. Okay, now it's very nice to say Ephraim, and that's the general area of Ephraim, but in the Hebrew language, New Testament, it's with Ephraim with an ayin instead of with an aleph. Ephraim is with an aleph. Ephraim with an ayin means Ophrah, which is where my son lived. And the Christian Arab town of Afarin, which is Ophrah, which is Ephraim, has a monastery there, and they have a well. I said, this is where Jesus drank from. So it's a little hard to get there because it is Palestinian Authority, but everything happens within a radius of 2-3 miles there. And what my son really does with his drone and with the tour that we lead there is that, you know, you have feet on the ground, seeing a Christian church, seeing a Muslim mosque together, one building, seeing the rock where Jacob lay his head. We know that's the rock. There is an ancient 1,000 or 2, we don't even know how old that tree is, an oak tree that was not chopped down by the Turks. All the other trees were chopped down. We see a fortress going back 3,000 years. Okay, we're talking now about the time of the split in the kingdom between northern Israel, the 10 tribes, and Benjamin, Judah, and Levi to the south in Jerusalem. All this is being excavated now, and it's proven. We see the temple that was built by Jeroboam, or Rehoboam. I always get them confused. You have one in the south, one in the north, and then Judah comes and destroys the temple because there was a golden calf there. We see, I think it's in Judges also, or in Joshua, that Phinehas, son of Eleazar, remember the one who skewered in Arabia, skewered the Israelite prince and the Midianite princess when they're having sex in front of the tent of the meeting and the Ark of the Covenant. Phinehas is officiating at the temple in Bethel. This is like before the split in the kingdom, obviously. In other words, the generation, the so-called evil generation of Moses and Aaron, they die off in the desert. Caleb and Joshua are really the only ones allowed into the land. So you have Eleazar. I don't know if he's alive or he's retired, but the grandson, Phinehas, is officiating. In other words, he comes out of Egypt, but he's officiating already in Bethel. Why would it be? What's so important about Bethel? Because it's a holy place. It's something that was, throughout history, a holy place. And they find an oil press and an olive press. They find pottery. They find graves. Why are there graves? Because Jews, Christians, and Muslims are buried next to that place. In other words, if you have Jews, Christians, and Muslims all revering a certain place, that's an important place.
Yes, it certainly is. Now, I'm holding a DVD production here. It's entitled The Gate of Heaven, which is really a nice euphemism, a nice title for Bethel. Bethel, House of God. Fascinating that this place has lain there for thousands of years, more or less undisturbed. People come and go. They have left their little artifacts, historical buildings, little emplacements. There are some spots that Aaron shows us have real meaning. But the bottom line on Bethel is that it is a place that once you look at it, you can see that it's been revered for thousands of years by different people, virtually every generation. And the thing that got me is here in the 21st century, it's revered by us as well. Thanks to people like Aaron who show us where it is, take us there, and explain the history of that location. It's got to be one of the hot spots in the entire world.
One of the things I say is that when you read the Bible in America, never been to Israel, it's like looking at a crown in a picture book. Beautiful gold crown encrusted with jewels. You're looking at a picture in a book.
Yeah.
When you know Hebrew and you know the Bible very well, then it's like going to a museum and seeing the crown inside of a glass box, but you can't touch it. It's two-dimensional.
Yeah.
When you come to Israel and your feet are on the ground there at Bethel, it's three-dimensional. You're holding the crown in your hand and you see it with your eyes. And when you go on a Lipkin tour visit to Israel, you have to have your Bible in your hands with you. And everything my son does is to prove the veracity of the Bible, that these things really happen. This is not make-believe.
And what this DVD is, by the way, is Aaron with a friend, Joshua Waller, who they just walk from one place to another, and they have a nice conversation. Do you know what's here? Do you know what? Look at this. Do you know what this is? Joshua says, well, no, but I think you're going to tell me, right? And so it's like walking along with a couple of friends on a nice sunny day and looking at the most amazing biblical history. This presentation is wonderful.
You know what? It's 48 minutes, and I'm telling everyone who gets it, you have to watch it many, many times. You have to watch the same video many, many times, because there are so many Bible quotes and so many teachings there that it's impossible on the first or second or third viewing to remember. All these quotes are given, from the Bible, proving that that's the place.
And it's amazing how many people deny that. In particular, the Arab tribes. In particular, if you will, the dominant power figures in the Middle East today are very, very busily, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, denying that Israel has any historical context.
Well, indeed, even our own Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, used to say that the Bible is just a book of fairy tales. And one of our problems in Israel is we have a socialist, I don't want to say socialist government. Netanyahu is not socialist. Netanyahu is a good guy. But the pyramid of power, the civil service, the foreign Ministry of Education, well, now it's changing because we have the right people there. But the civil service, the leadership of Israel, the police, the army, the foreign service, everything is controlled by socialists who don't believe in God, and that the Bible is make-believe. But I also want to add another thing also. We have a problem with the United Nations. The United Nations, which was a good idea at the beginning and basically represented the enlightened Western allies of World War II. But today, the United Nations faithfully represents the whole human race. 2/3 of the human race is pagan. And so if the pagans don't believe in the Bible, the United Nations is going to be against the Bible. And I've spoken about this many times on your shows in the past, that the Muslims are saying that the Temple Mount in Jerusalem is not a Jewish or Judeo-Christian place. The Temple Mount is only a Muslim place. And I told you the story about the Vatican ambassador who said, if that temple was not a Jewish place, where did Jesus, visit on Hanukkah? Where did he have his bar mitzvah? Where did he overturn the money changers' tables? It was all there at the temple in Jerusalem. So the temple is absolutely proven, again, archaeologically and scientifically, that it existed. And the Muslims are living in psychological problem land. Hebron, the tomb of the patriarchs, all of these things, eventually Aaron is going to make DVDs on all of them. And eventually we will establish a library of scientifically proven documentation of all these sites in Israel. He has a drone, which is doing very good work, and very good pictures, movies taken by the drone.
Beautiful aerial shots, absolutely beautiful. But to me...
and this has to be in every church, in every synagogue.
Oh, it should. It should be. The production factors in this thing are wonderful. It's couldn't have been better produced. The photography is phenomenal. But I love the conversation. I don't know what it is about your son, Aaron, but he's very soft-spoken, but very authoritative at the same time. He just goes right down a list of facts, historical dates, names, places. When we were there, we stood in many of these places. Another one, which we'll talk about in a moment, which just blew me away. But you're standing on history, literally. And I think this is why people are lured to Israel. Deep down inside, people understand that the greatest transactions in human history took place there. And they want to be some part of it, I think.
It's not just history. It's the essence of our existence.
How true.
For every Jew and every Christian.
Yeah.
And I also believe, I'm a missionary to the world, a Jewish missionary to the world. And I think I love the Hindus, I love the Buddhists, I love the Muslims. When they're presented with the facts, they all have to come over and believe in the Lord. They have to all believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
And that's what it's all about. Avi and his son Aaron have, I think, over the years kind of evolved into this business of showing people Israel from a factual, historical perspective. The other DVD we want to talk about today is called Finding Gilgal. Everybody's read in the Bible, Gilgal, the words Gilgal. They've read the story about how Joshua came across the river, the Jordan River, He built memorials and then came into the land and took the land as the Lord had commanded him to do. I think we all understand that. We all know about it. But these little throwaway terms like Gilgal. Well, what's Gilgal? It's a place. We don't really know where it was. It doesn't matter. Let's go on to the next item. You know, we sort of pass over some of these extremely important ideas. But finding Gilgal is one of the most important ideas I think I've ever seen. And this DVD called The Footsteps of God opens the Bible up in a new way and shows us that when Joshua and his people came in, they literally viewed the land as a place where God places his foot. And it's like they traced around his foot and made giant footsteps. Tell us about that.
Well, indeed, God's foot is like a flag. You know, you're planting a flag saying God is here. This is God's place. This is a holy place. And one of the things that Aaron shows is that, for example, we have to go back to Pharaoh. Pharaoh had sandals, and they weren't just sandals. The artists who made his sandals etched in the faces and the bodies of all the nations he conquered, the leaders of the nations he defeated. And he's stepping on them. In other words, Pharaoh is God, according to ancient Egyptian thinking. His foot is stepping on these people. This was a term used by all the ancient peoples. Where your foot goes, you own it. You're the master. You're the sovereign. Our dear friends Jim and Penny Caldwell were in Saudi Arabia 12 years, and you've got these footprints all over the Saudi desert.
Carved into rocks.
Carved into rocks, and even the Saudis try to erase it, they can't. This is like a supernatural imprintation by God, like the Ten Commandments were written by the finger of God. This also proves the finger of God wrote the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
So these Israelites, after 38 years in the Saudi desert, they make their way north into the land of the Amorites. You know, Deuteronomy 2, verse 2, God says, enough being encamped on Mount Sinai, turn north to the land that I promised you. They go up to the land of the Amorites, they cross the Jordan. The first thing they do is this Gilgal. In other words, they go across the Jordan River, and they make this tremendous footprint, which is about 3 baseball fields or football fields in length. They sacrifice animals there. They find 1-year-old kosher animals, you know, none of this rats or pigs or dogs or things that people used to sacrifice. The pagans sacrificed all kinds of animals. The Jews only sacrificed the kosher animals that are allowed to be sacrificed. And all of a sudden, Professor Adam Zartal discovers these footprints, and one of them, by the way, is Jerusalem.
Yes.
We show this in the DVD. The footprint, the city of David is in the shape of a foot. You have this footprint in Shechem Nablus, which was Joshua's altar. You have them in the Jordan Valley, the Tirzah Valley, going up to Shechem Nablus. So this DVD shows there are these footprints everywhere in the Holy Land. I wouldn't be surprised if we find more. And actually, you need aerial reconnaissance from the air to see these giant footprints.
Well, you know, it's said, Aaron has kind of expressed this. I heard him speaking once, and he said that maybe there are 12 of them, because Gilgal is associated with the number 12, the 12 stones that, of memorial that Joshua was told by God to place on the ground. But that aside, we went to a place called Argamon on our tour. And we walked across a field, not knowing exactly what we were going to see, up onto a rock face where we could turn around and look back down.
And see the foot.
And see the foot. Mm-hmm. And all of us were absolutely breathless. We were shocked. A foot. It's a giant foot. It's got to be, 800 feet long or something? I'm not sure the exact length. You'll see it in this DVD called The Footsteps of God. That footprint has been there for 3,500 plus years.
And what's interesting is that the Israelites, when they would partake of the offering, in other words, you make an offering to God, and it's basically a tremendous barbecue, and everybody is eating. After they finish eating, it's like a Greek restaurant. They take the plates and they smash them. And so there's pottery everywhere. And the pottery is carbon dated to 1300 BC.
Wow.
So again, scientific, archaeological proof of the veracity of the Bible.
And it hasn't been disturbed.
It hasn't been disturbed in all these, because it's in the middle of the desert.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
because that artifact has been left intact as a sign to those living in the latter days. I'm absolutely convinced.
Not only that, my son has yet to do 2 more DVDs, and it's important that Jews and Christians buy these DVDs now to strengthen my son's efforts in making the next set of DVDs. And one of them is about the altar of Joshua, where the 6 tribes are on the Mount Gerizim, the other 6 tribes are on Mount Ebal, and you had the blessings and the curses. And the temple there, I mean, there was the altar is inside of a foot. And after the Israelites left Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, and then they built the sanctuary in Shiloh. They were the 369 years. That also has been proven to be true. So what they did was they covered up the altar on Mount Gerizim with big boulders and stones. And Professor Adam Zartal, rest in peace, basically he saw there was something strange about this mound of rocks. So he started moving the rocks away. And they found underneath it the exact dimensions of the altar at the temple in Jerusalem. In other words, if you open up the Mishnah, if you open up the book with the Mishnah, it shows what the temple needs to look like, exactly the altar that we see at Mount Gerizim, Mount Ebal. And I mean, we didn't see this at the Argaman site, but things become more and more professional, things become more and more advanced as the Israelites are in the land. But all of these things are interconnected.
And this DVD called Finding Gilgal, The Footsteps of God, is based upon Adam Zartal's work. It's a sad thing that he passed away when he did. On the other hand, he laid a tremendous foundation there. And what can you say when you go out into what we would call kind of a wilderness area and go up on some rocks and look down? You gaze down upon this huge footprint, and right in the middle of the footprint, by the way, is a rectangular sort of an area which must have been the place that housed the tabernacle.
Yeah.
And that is so awe-inspiring to look at that and to realize that you are standing and seeing the history of God's transaction, his interaction between himself and his people, and you're standing in the very same spot. It just brings tears to your eyes.
It's very emotional. When you read the Bible, never been in Israel, you read the Bible, excuse the expression, blah, 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 fantasies, nice stories. When you're in the land, bingo. Every quote makes sense.
Yes.
Every quote comes alive. And so if you are a true Christian or a true Jew, you have to come to Israel and walk with your feet, boots on the ground, to understand the veracity of the Bible.
We're offering these 2 DVDs, one called Finding Gilgal, the other one that we spoke of earlier, Bethel, the gate of heaven, the place where the region, shall we say, where God met with Abraham and made the most amazing promises ever made on the surface of planet Earth, the Abrahamic covenant. And when you walk in those places, as you will when you view these wonderful DVDs, and take my word, they're beautifully produced. It'll be like you're walking along with Aaron and his friend. You can almost smell the foliage on the trees. I mean, it's wonderful. When you get these 2 DVDs, we're going to give you, as a bonus, a little record of our trip to Israel last year. And you'll see Aaron on this quite often because he guided us in a number of ways, a number of places on our trip to Israel. The 2 DVDs plus our Join Us in Jerusalem commemorative DVD, yours for $39.90. And I think you're going to want the whole package. Just ask for the Aaron Lipkin package. It's prophecywatchers.com. Go to the online bookstore, dial down, and you'll see it, the Aaron Lipkin package. And believe me, you'll want to get it. You'll want to watch every last moment of these DVDs again and again. I've watched this one twice, The Gate of Heaven. There's just something about this. Of course, the one about Gilgal and the foot is amazing, the foot of Argaman. And you say, the foot of Argaman, that makes me curious. Well, it should make you curious. Get the DVD. But this one, Bethel, that's the one that to me is emotional, because you cannot overestimate the importance of the Abrahamic covenant. I'll bless those who bless you. I'll curse those who curse you. that covenant is still in effect to this very day.
Indeed. And I wanted to say one more thing also. My son is now working on 2 more DVDs. He'll be here, God willing, in December. And hopefully there'll be 2 more DVDs, one about Shiloh and the other one about the mountaintop there with the altar of Joshua. What I wanted to say is that these DVDs require a tremendous amount of research and tremendous amount of effort. It's very important for people to get all the DVDs as they come out, especially these 2 first ones. People need to get them in order to help boost the efforts that we are all making to get the truth out to all Bible-believing Jews and Christians.
You know, I've seen DVDs on Israel before, and they're more like travelogues.
Yeah.
I would term these as taking a journey with a friend, walking along with a friend on a beautiful day, and you stop for a moment and you say, look at this, what do you think this is? Well, I don't know. And he says, well, this is what it is. He explains it to you, and you say, oh, that's very interesting. And then he says, well, let's go to this next place. I'll show you something even better. And he has this gift for putting history into conversation, which I really like. This is very good.
And it's all to the glory of God, proving that God's word is true.
Amen. You know, Israel stands strong today. I just praise the Lord that a godly man like Benjamin Netanyahu is in office right now. Critical times in Israel. I take it that your confidence is still at a very high level concerning Israel.
I have no doubt that the victory will be ours. In the Hebrew, there is an abbreviation. It's called Nili, N-I-L-I. In Hebrew, it's Netzach Yisrael Lo Yishaker, that the victory of Israel is not a lie, that this is indeed going to happen. I think Disraeli, Benjamin Disraeli, who was the prime minister under Queen Victoria, said the very fact that the Jews have made it this far are another proof of God's existence. And the very fact that the Jewish state of Israel has been resurrected is another fact proving God's existence. What my son is doing now, together with the help of everyone watching this show, is he's proving the veracity of the Bible through archeology and science. And, you know, a lot of people say, you know, they're from Missouri, you know, the show me state.
Oh, yes.
And so we are the show me people. We are showing people that everything that is in the Bible is proven to be true. And this is important in the battle against Islam, which is a replacement theology, and the one world government, which is a replacement theology with their god of Mammon. And I think all of these things are going to lead to a great revival in the Judeo-Christian Western civilization and democracy.
Well said. Avi Lipkin, and Avi visits from time to time. You keep watching. We're going to bring you his wisdom as time goes by. I'm Gary Stearman. We're watching, so you keep watching too. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.